All right, you're very welcome along to Thursday morning's OTB AM. Got the day right today. That's already one up on yesterday. We do have a pretty good show for you lined up today. One of the iconic scenes from the weekend. We're going to get the story behind that. We'll do a bit more digging on the Carnacon mystery, the fact that they've been kicked out by the County Board in Mayo for withdrawing their services from the county team. As ever, when situations like this occur, one of the best things you can possibly do is go to Jack Anderson's Twitter feed and he's like, this isn't going to stand. Surely players play for their county as a voluntary thing as opposed to, you know, being compelled to under rules. If you get selected, you have to do this, you know, like in a contractual way, the way you might be able to compel a professional, because this is an amateur organisation. So the Mayo Ladies County Board have covered themselves in, well, it's not quite glory this time.
Doesn't look like it, does it? It's almost as if these are the only inter-county players that have ever opted out of an inter-county setup. We definitely haven't seen cases where other teams have lost plenty of people because, you know, the demands of inter-county football are too big, the demands of inter-county hurling are too big, or that they want to go and travel the world or something like that. There's clearly a bit of bad blood for the reasoning behind their stepping away, which has led to this decision. And we still don't know what's going on here. We still don't know the nitty-gritty of these exact welfare reasons that Cora Staunton and co have cited. It does seem that the way the conversation has gone around this is that it was a Cora Staunton-led mutiny, which very well may not be the case. It's just she is the most prominent member of the cohort who decided to leave the Mayo football panel. So to say that, you know, we can't wait to hear what Cora has to say there, I'm sure there's plenty of other people in that cohort when they do speak about this that it'll be very, very interesting to hear what they have to say. It's
mad how these situations finish and then just to get revenge, somebody brings it all back out into the light again and says, no, that fire seems to be going out there. Let me just pour some petrol on it and a bit of napalm and let's see what happens.
My world is too cold.
Let's get that cocktail stoked up a little bit here. So, well, it was going to be a quiet, bitter winter in Mayo women's football, and now it's going to be a massively public situation.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. Is this kind of the direct opposite of a strike? Is this like, you know, when you go back through the years of the great strike stories, this is one of the great ban stories. So, you know, like we've got a mirror image here of the Donald Cusack era at Cork hurling. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. It's also going to we were also in the realms of huge speculation here. We've got very little details about this story. They've managed to keep themselves under wraps for, what is it now, about a month and a half?
It's a bit longer than that, yeah.
2 months?
Yeah. What we do know is that the Mayo County Board are pissed off and they're not going to take anybody's crap, especially not Carnacon, the best team in the county, one of the best teams in the country, who might have had an opportunity to win All-Ireland. You're like, no, we're pissed off at you and we're going to tell the whole world about it, and the whole world shall know our vengeance.
Yeah, well, revenge is a dish best served cold, and all I can see is coldness everywhere right now.
So we're going to speak with Valerie Lynch a little bit later on. Valerie shot to national fame at the course of the weekend when she somehow managed to wriggle her way through the corral of security, preventing people from getting on the pitch. She got on the pitch and had this amazing embrace with her son Cian, who we spoke to, and showed him the picture that was doing the rounds on Monday morning live at the City West Hotel, where the Limerick team were celebrating their All-Ireland victory. Have a look.
The mother actually hopped over the fence and got onto the pitch in Croke Park yesterday. I'd say there's still no warrant out for her, but you know, it means so much to everyone, like, which is unbelievable. So
I don't know if you've seen the photograph yet, but there's an amazing photograph of you and your mum just hugging on the pitch.
Is there? I didn't see it now at all. She probably has it already herself.
Oh, it's class. It's in the papers. It's
is it?
Yeah. We found it on info anyway, so we'll send it to you. But it's just,
it'd be great.
It's just brilliant. Do you remember, did you talk to her? Do you remember anything you actually said to her?
No, even lads were saying what they feel like after the game, like, but I kind of put the head down. I actually struggled to breathe for a few minutes, like, because you're kind of saying, jeez, we're after winning All Ireland, like, it's a dream come true. But I remember the mother, she jumped up out of nowhere and I grabbed her and just put the head on her shoulder, and it was actually a moment where I could actually just breathe for a second and kind of take in my own surroundings and realise, you know what, this is what it's about. You know, she was the woman that was there for me from the very beginning with the whole family, like, and just to see her there on the pitch, whether the shorts after or the shorts not, like, just see her smiling and going around to everyone, So it puts it all into perspective, really.
I don't know if your phone is charged, but Tommy has just WhatsApped you the picture there. If you want to have a look at it, I don't know if you're getting photographs or if you managed to plug it in last night. You were doing pretty well.
Oh, Tommy Rooney, hold on here now a second.
There you go. That's it.
If that's the only message on his phone this morning, now he hasn't.
I have another. Oh, jeez, I see it. Some hit me, don't they? Jesus, yeah, that's lovely now. In fairness, she'd be delighted at that.
Yeah, rightly so. And there was also some eagle-eyed person in the crowd managed to snap a video, and like we worked out subsequently that person there legging it across the pitch is actually Cian Lynch's mum. Now, unfortunately, the video stopped at that point. So, but yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I'm sure that the actual television company recording the match, whatever they're called, have the behind the scenes, you know, that they use it for the puck outs.
Yeah.
They just kept that behind the goal shot, just rolling a little bit longer. We would have got the shot perfectly.
Yeah.
If that footage is out there, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'm sure you'd hope that there's like this year's version of Ireland's version of America's game.
This would be the year to do it, actually, considering how giving that Limerick team have already been with their time, and that'd be fantastic, actually. There's a shout.
Yeah, well, we've been making that shout for about 12 years, and no one pays a blind bit of notice. It's like, no, I can't do that in Ireland. We don't have that culture here of like telling our stories. We're really not a good storytelling nation at all. We're not like world renowned for that at all.
No, definitely not.
No way we could tell good stories about hurling or football at the end of the year.
There's definitely no such thing as Cian Lynch and Shane Dowling and Seamus Hickey and all the other people who've been on this show this week telling amazing stories.
The other amazing story that we had, and this was courtesy of Henry Martin's Twitter feed yesterday, was John Kiely's winning speech when he wins the Junior B Hurling Championship. Now, you've done some deep background research here. People were suspecting that the little kid in the video was actually you, and that's why you were being so happy to gift this and send it out there and make it go viral. It was like a kind of a weird sort of self-reflective thing, but it's not actually.
You know, I've never been to a hurling game, Ger.
It's not actually you.
It's not. It's Pat Cushion, who is from the same club, of course, as John Kiely. Should we just show the video altogether? We may as well just show it to you. This is the kidding
and it did lash rain. It was a pure storm, and we got covered in shit and puddle outside in the field. But that's what wins championships. That's what wins county medals.
It's the microphone picking up just that bit of laughter at the end. It's like whatever way the sound works, it just focuses on this bit of laughter, which is perfect.
Yeah,
for shit and puddles.
For all our audio listeners, there was a little ginger kid who was clapping his hands and realises it's okay to laugh at the word shit, and it's just a great moment. It's one of the best gifts I've ever seen, and it's kind of created a little bit of internet fame for Pat Cushion, and he's going to speak to us a little bit later on. Yeah,
he was actually a hurl carrier for John Kiely when John was manager of the Limerick intermediate team. So, so like it's just another opportunity for us to kind of see how this small club is actually plugged into the biggest hurling story of the year.
It is remarkable, isn't it?
You know?
Because like when you talk about Limerick, it's quite easy to say, well, it's a city, it's a big population.
And there's two clubs that we all know that are actually going to be the backbone at any one time.
Exactly. Well, in actual fact, it's actually just a bunch of small communities around the county. Of course, it's growing, and it's going to grow rapidly, you'd imagine, over the next few years. But it is just like any other county that doesn't have a big city for a population base in it. It is just community based. It is like just scenes like that to see John Kiely and that kid who ended up being his hurl carrier, as you say, a few years later. It's remarkable. It's just so many great stories coming out over the last few days.
Yeah, so let's tell you exactly the times that everything's coming up today. It's 5 minutes before 8 this morning. We're going to do the sports pages a little bit later than advertised. Valerie Lynch is going to join us around about 8:15 this morning. Peter Duggan, Owen was talking to him yesterday at the PwC GAA All-Stars Player of the Month.
Yeah, PwC Player of the Month for July, so a bit later than advertised.
Garry Ringrose is going to join us at 9 o'clock, and we have our Endorsements World Cup semi-final. We can't reveal the teams, but I mean, as you can, let's not reveal the teams. You're going to have to. We'll keep you on tenterhooks until 8:45 for that. It says there. So, and of course, Darren will be along with all the morning sports news in a moment. But first, we're going to take you to the newspapers.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.
Okay, so the Irish Times, the lead this morning is we have to do something different. Kavanagh. So also there yesterday at this wasn't. He was only available to print grouped interviews. Okay, grand. So This is Colin Kavanagh saying we have to do something different to try and beat Dublin. The other papers are going with headlines like we have to believe that we're going to win. So do you think he was reading Jim McGuinness about how to beat Dublin, wrestling to a 0-all?
Potentially, yeah. I think that's just common logic anyway, isn't it? I think that...
No, the common logic is you have to go and be brave and score 332 and because they're going to score 350 against you.
That is something different, no?
What?
Like the being brave, the kind of throwing caution to the winds. Like ultimately...
No, that's the one that that is the received wisdom that the three wise men have said. This is the only way, there is no other way. You must not engage in any other, all other gods are false. This is the one true God. You must go out there and beat Dublin in a shootout because, let's face it, that's the only way you're going to do it. Like, well, in a shootout, I'm taking a gun to a knife fight.
Yeah.
To a gunfight.
Well, if they take a gun to a knife fight, then Tyrone have a hell of a chance. But I don't think Tyrone have been living by that religion to keep the gods speak up for a few moments here. They never have. They've always been doing something different. I think that's what Kavanagh's talking about there. Is it like are you really sitting in suspense there when you read those comments? That it's like, whoa, I wonder what Mickey Hart's going to pull out of the bag.
Yeah, totally. Like, if he goes for the absolute extreme lockdown that Jim McGuinness suggests, then this is going to be one of the worst games of Gaelic football, but one of the most interesting games of Gaelic football that you're ever going to see.
Yeah, it's kind of like...
it's not on that point, right? Like, at half-time, stupidly, at the All-Ireland final, hurling final, I looked at my Twitter feed and it was full of people going, well, Jesus, which one of the pundits is going to say this is a shite game? And I'm like, why, if you don't think the game is any good, why do you need someone on TV to kind of give you that black cross on your forehead to go, yeah, it's not a great game?
Yeah.
Like, are they there to sit in judgment of the quality of the game, or are they there to explain why teams aren't actually performing to their optimum? What do we want from our pundits?
Maybe we as a nation just want to see Joe Brawley, Pat Spillane and Colin O'Rourke happy. We just want to see them enjoy some football. Maybe that's all we want. Maybe we don't want analysis. We don't want to learn anything about the game. All I want to know at halftime is, I really hope Joe Brawley's having a good time there in the box. I really hope he's enjoying that game of football. Like, it's good. I do hope it's the worst game of all time. Like, I'm not sure... have you seen that movie, The Room, which is like constantly regarded as the worst movie ever made? It's brilliant because it's the worst movie ever made. Like, exactly. If like that Gareth A. Davies was compared to recently on Twitter, which I thought was brilliant. If this is the worst game of football ever played.
You know, Joseph was outside busily tweeting, copying Gareth A. Davies, Tommy Wiseau, in the hope that Tommy, which he will retweet, and just make sure you tag Owen in that, Joseph, and not me, please.
But the thing is, like, if this is the footballing version of The Room, then we're all going to be very, very happy. It's all going to be amazing.
No, you just know it'll be the darkest, bleakest winter of people gurning and giving out and moaning and rule changes and shite. Like, there will be, like, think of the endless hours of crap you're going to have to talk about, putting a limit on the number of hand passes and, like, getting into schools and teaching them the lost art of the kick pass. No thanks. No.
Like, I think that's all part of the theatre around it, seeing those people go absolutely crazy. Like, I do maintain that if it's a middling game and it's run or semi-defensive, they'll get beaten, and also we'll hate it more than we would if it was the worst game ever.
Dublin will just wear them down over the 80 minutes of the All-Ireland final or whatever it is. Okay, so let's move on to the Times Ireland edition, and this terrible story of Michael O'Shea embodied everything positive about the GAA, says John Horan, the association's president, after the former Clare footballer died last night. He was aged 37. He died after an illness of developing cancer. His club, St Senan's Kilkee, said in a statement, "Our hearts are absolutely aching today with the pain of the loss of our brother Michael O'Shea, arguably the greatest footballer ever to wear the blue and white jersey of St Senan's Kilkee. Michael passed away in the loving arms of his family." You know, somebody so young and vital and healthy, and cancer touches so many families in Ireland, and we send our condolences to everybody involved and to the family and to the club and to the county at large. Unhappy Jose will not quit. Of course he's not going to quit because then he doesn't get a payoff. And then West Ham and new legal round. This is the continuing madness around the London Stadium. So during the summer the London Stadium was used for athletics, and there's like this big board of West Ham's Roll of Honour that got taken down for the athletics because it was the London Stadium. The London Stadium put up their own banner saying this is for everyone. It's in blue and white, which the West Ham fans think is some kind of subtle Spursian thing, because, you know, everybody's out to get you when you're a West Ham fan, even though they gave you the stadium for nothing and you managed to make a complete ruination of it.
What colour are Millwall?
Millwall are blue and white.
Well, there you go.
Chelsea, blue and white.
There you go.
You know, loads of blue and white. Also good colours for a poster.
Well, am I just sticking up for West Ham fans here?
Yeah.
You would assume that the Millwall connection is probably a little bit more touching than the Spurs. Like Spurs are never really associated with blue.
No, and they're the ones that the West Ham fans think.
Yeah.
So. That stadium's cursed. They should move on. They should say this is a pity. It didn't work out. We're going somewhere else. We need a new home with like a properly football designed stadium for football as opposed to an athletics track. Also, West Ham should get over themselves at this stage. And then there's a two-page spread from Shane Stapleton, which I'm sure he'll go through in detail today on the hurling show, which is coming your way. It's the final one of the season for now.
It's proof. That piece is proof that it was a 1-point hammering for Limerick, I think.
Yeah, and then sorry if you could just lift your technology. I'll take you through what's going on in the Examiner and the Times, or the Indo, sorry, the Independent. Those photographs that we showed you on yesterday morning show here on OTB AM, Casement Park, the pictures of the ragwort, and so they've spoken to somebody from the Ulster Council Secretary. It's an unfortunate situation, and all we can do is push for a decision. Redevelopment Casement Park remains a top priority for us, and the Antrim County Secretary said we need Casement Park redeveloped. It's as simple as that. But yeah, they're the photographs that we showed you on the show yesterday that the Antrim County Board tweeted the night before from their Twitter handle. So I don't know, maybe if the Rugby World Cup thing had happened, Casement would have been fast-tracked, and who knows, maybe losing the Rugby World Cup means that the Stormont executive didn't have to come back, and actually a lot of this chaos comes from our inability to win a bid that seemed pretty straightforward for us to win.
Are you saying that the Rugby World Cup would have saved the power struggle in the north?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, sport is a powerful thing, I guess. Shane Ross could have fixed it all if he just put a little bit more work into, schmoozing the international executive. The Scots, basically.
Get our buddies on board. Get our Celtic cousins on board there. Do whatever you have to do to get them on board. No. The Scots.
We could have promised Scotland that we would start teaching their version of Gaelic in school, or we could have promised the Welsh that we'd start teaching Welsh.
We'll come and visit you.
Yeah, we will. More tourism for you.
Yeah, exactly. Kenny on Daisha radar to take over from McGrath. This is another Martin Brownie story. Matty Kenny, who led Dublin champions Coola to the last two All-Ireland senior club hurling titles, could be on his way to Waterford as Derek McGrath's replacement. He's a top target among Waterford power brokers who are impressed by his achievements. Impressing the power brokers is an important thing. It's like one of the keys to victory in Irish society and life. Impress the power brokers, Owen. That's what you got to do.
Like, what are these? Like, who are these implicit power brokers you're talking about? Like, who are the people I've got to impress?
Anywhere in any room that you're ever in, you need to do a quick.
And most importantly, how do you have the opportunity to broker power?
Oh, I don't know.
Just become chairman of a county board.
It gets handed down to you, I'd say there's a lot of shy talking involved.
If you can talk shite, you can broke power, as the old saying goes.
Showing up to meetings and being awake at the end when the actions are handed out to remember what you have to do. That's the main thing.
Sounds like Congress.
Yeah, exactly. Pat Ryan was the early favourite to replace McGrath, but he's ruled himself out. Kenny looks an ideal fit after doing so well with Coola. Coola would be reluctant to let him go. Can't really stop him though, can they? If he wants to do it.
No, it's a big step up. Like, you don't know what's going to happen with Kiely. Like, going for 3 in a row in an All-Ireland club would be absolutely unprecedented. It would be unbelievable. So maybe there's part of that, and maybe he feels his stock is so high as a club manager at the moment that he can wait another year. The only thing is, where will the job be available next year? Does Davy just give it one more year? Like, it seems like Pat Kiely is going to stay there for another few years. Obviously, that was the job that Matty Kenny got overlooked for previously. But that would suggest that Kenny was willing to leave Coola if the reports are to be believed, that he would have taken that Dublin job. But then again, he's used to training in Dublin and all that sort of stuff. So Waterford, maybe geographically, logistically, doesn't work for him. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Is it a bit mad that Waterford don't have a manager just yet? That we're not, there isn't a kind of clearly identified single character who they've focused their attention on and gone, yeah, you're our guy?
It is a bit weird, because you'd imagine they'd want to be out in the pitches at the moment looking at county championship games and seeing who are the players from the club scene. You'd want to get into the fold, but with the size of the backroom teams now, I'm sure somebody's looking out for players.
Story from Shane Kingston. Cork's Kingston admits his father had to intervene over a ridiculous schedule, flagging concerns. This is the continued preview in the Examiner all week this week ahead of the All-Ireland hurling under-21 final on Sunday in the Gaelic grounds. Shane Kingston's benefiting from a tapered workload these days after flirting with burnout in his talented teens. So clearly a star of most of the teams he's playing in, and a star into the future as well.
The lead picture on the back page of the Irish Daily Mail this morning is Roaring Lion. Big win there for Oisin Murphy there in New York yesterday, the Kerry-born jockey. And fighting back is the main story. Mayo Club to appeal being thrown out of county championship, as we've been talking, and also that Colm Kavanagh story in the back of the Irish Daily Mail. We need to change, he says. He was speaking at the PwC headquarters yesterday. Back page of the Herald is Kavanagh got to believe anything can happen, says Tyrone veteran. Anything can happen. As we heard from Mickey Hart yesterday on the show speaking to Will, he says that all good records have to come to an end. So it's fighting talk from Tyrone this week, but I guess you'd expect nothing less from a camp like that. And Company can't help, United dig. So Vincent Company has taken a swipe at Manchester United fans by claiming that some of them talk nonsense. And I think Vincent Company is right there, but I don't say it's exclusive to Manchester United fans. I think all football fans talk a bit of nonsense at times. I mean, a lot. You know, the All or Nothing documentary just, you know, when you talk about it, adding fuel to a fire, just this. If the Manchester Derby just wasn't testy enough for us, you know, he just threw out this documentary and it makes things even hotter, I think. So it's going to be interesting for the first Manchester Derby of the season. Speaking of which, the Irish Daily Star is Jose hasn't lost it. Players still behind boss, insists Neville. We'll get to the Sun in a moment. Just got an interesting story on all of this. But it seems that the public perception is shifting in favour of Jose Mourinho and against Ed Woodward. You've got that Colm Kavanagh story, you've got that new twist in Mayo ladies row, and you've got looks a bit grim for Pep. So Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola may have to throw rookie goalkeeper Daniel Grimshaw in at the deep end. So
the deep end being the subs bench. The deep end is the subs bench.
Yes, good point. But, you know, you got an injury.
It's not that's not the deep end. A Champions League quarter-final, if you're like a reserve rookie goalkeeper, that's the deep end.
Yeah, it's actually probably he'll probably play in the Carabao Cup. So
not the deep end.
Well, you know,
the shallow end of the football pool is the Carabao Cup.
Ask any fans of that delicious Thai energy drink and they'll tell you otherwise, Jared. The Carabao Cup is the be-all and end-all. A story that Darren brought us yesterday morning. You're taking the mickey. Arsenal star rounds on stupid critics and backs Emery to sort out struggle. Good on you, Henrik Mkhitaryan, is all I say.
With headlines like that, we need the laughing kid.
Bordeaux directs for Henry, and it seems that this is going to happen sooner rather than later. Henry is set to meet the new owners of Bordeaux before agreeing to take his first manager's job at the Ligue 1 club. I think it's fair to say he's still very untested when it comes to this. Like, everybody's weirdly applauding Thierry Henry for leaving Sky Sports and pursuing this career.
Yeah, why not? Come on.
But
and Frank Lampard.
Yeah, it's a good, brave thing to do. But that doesn't mean he's going to be a good manager. It seems that
no one's saying he's going to be a good manager, but at least he's trying.
It seems that his lack of association with Sky Sports has suddenly increased his capabilities of being a football manager. Of course, logistically it does. But I think since he left Sky Sports, it's like, oh, wow, you're actually much more... I admire you much more than the guy who was assistant manager to Belgium. Nothing has changed. You're just not on television anymore. He hasn't gained the footballing knowledge.
He's giving up £4 million a year to go and do work.
It's ballsy, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that he's going to be a good manager.
No one's saying it means he's going to be a good manager. He's gone the right way, that learning.
I'm not sure about that. Actually, I just want to take one step back here to the Star. I forgot to bring you this, because on the front page of the Irish Daily Star, it says, Tigers joy for JP and Limerick. And if you flick inside to page 13, Hurling 1 reads the headline here. So the Star have got an exclusive with Tiger Woods. Tigers congrats to Limerick as he's delighted for pal JP. So
Limerick, you're a lady.
Exactly.
I'll be around later.
Bernie Maguire here, writing that golf icon Tiger Woods has paid tribute to Limerick hurlers on their stunning All-Ireland win. So just to read you out some of the quotes. JP is one of my dearest friends, and it's cool his Limerick team finally won the title, as I know how passionate he is about his hurling, as well as his love of horse racing and, of course, golf, Tiger told the Star. I remember one year I was over for his Pro-Am and JP took me to a hurling match. I don't remember this. I thought it was pretty neat, but not a sport I would want to try, he laughed. I tried to keep in contact with him as much as our time allows, but that's great news for JP and Limerick, and I'm really pleased for him, as JP just does so much for sport in Ireland. It was a pretty cool result last weekend for JP and Limerick. He also talks a little bit about the potential of the Ryder Cup coming to Adair Manor and saying that he'd love to come over. And he says he's not sure when he's going to be back, but he does know he's looking forward to going back to Ireland in 2020 for his Pro-Am at Adair Manor, and it's been a long time since he played the Pro-Am. So Tiger Woods back in the country in 2 years' time. So pretty neat, all you Limerick hurlers out there. That's how Tiger Woods describes you. Not bad. That's probably the biggest endorsement all week, isn't it? Now, this story, back page of the Sun. Rain, Rain, Go Away, an exclusive by Neil Custis and Neil Ashton. The fans are planning plain protest at Chief Ed, not at the manager, at Ed Woodward. So it is going to read Ed out, LUHG. So obviously Love United, Hate Glazer. Some stars feel Jose's days are numbered, so they do balance it out with some of the stars wanting the manager out. But this says that most of the fans want Ed Woodward out, so they're going to fly a plane over on Sunday week, not for that Monday night football game against Spurs because it's too close, so it's going to be the game after that. So, you know, the public perception has clearly, with Gary Neville kind of supporting Jose Mourinho there, with the fans planning to fly a plane in protest of Ed Woodward, it seems that the perception of him has shifted well away in his direction and it's gone right in Jose's favour. We'll move on to some of the UK back pages then, and The Guardian. England search for a quick batting fix. Selector Smith will name squad for fourth test today, with James Vince hopeful of a recall on his home ground. And that is pretty much all the papers.
Okay. I'm not doing a football roundup now. Do that later.
We may as well do it now. Let's have a look at this. So Everton have, like every Premier League club likes a bit of innovation, but Everton have got in bed with Angry Birds. Like, what a great commercial lineup this is. And they've actually got Angry Birds to design a number of Angry Birds based on their characters. Have a look at this.
Angry Birds Evolution.
I'm so happy. I've always wanted to know what Theo Walcott would have looked like as an angry bird, and now I know. So all my dreams have come true. Dele Alli has taken it on another level. We all know about his Delibration. Let's look at this. And he's now taken it on to a different level with this one. We're not even going to try it. We're not even just going to try it. Like, how the hell do you do that? Like initially with the first one, I thought he just had to be double jointed. It was impossible. But this just is like conclusive proof that he is triple jointed, quadruple jointed. It's incredible. So if you manage, Jerry's going to do it for us here in studio. He was getting his hand ready there a second ago.
It's the first time I've seen it.
Go on, give it a go.
No,
give it a go.
You have to practice these things. You can't just break. See, Dele Alli practices for 10 hours, gets it ready for like a second, hits. It
sounds like your hand is pretty close there to being in the correct position.
Or hits a snap and away it goes. Like, this is literally the first time I've seen it. So it was the third.
We're introducing a new slot to you this week. It's called Dickhead of the Week, and this week's Dickhead of the Week is James Maddison of Leicester City. I didn't know a lot about James Maddison. Have a look at this. His friend was in court yesterday and got off charges regarding assault outside a nightclub in Norwich. But it's nothing to do with the assault, really. It's to do with some of the quotes regarding James Maddison. So this fella's James Maddison's friend slapped and punched a fella called Mr. Brown because Mr. Brown, it seems, didn't know who James Maddison was. So just to read out some of the quotes.
Mr. Brown, it's a bit like Mr. Shit, isn't it?
Judge Peters told the court Mr. Brown was waiting for a taxi with friends at a bus stop when the footballer approached him in the early hours. He said, "Do you know who I am?" It was quite friendly, not at all aggressive, in fairness. We said, "We don't know. Why would we?" He said, "I'm James Maddison. I play for Norwich City." When we said we didn't know, he changed a bit and started talking about his trainers. He said he earns £7,000 a week. He said he earns more in a month than we do in a year. He didn't even ask what I did. He said his shoes were worth more than our outfits. Mr. Brown's evidence was that another person approached as he sat at the bus stop and said, "You should know who he is," before delivering a slap to his face. But of course, there was no kind of criminal charge for that resultant alleged slap, I should say. So all charges dropped on James Maddison's friend. But congratulations to James on becoming our first Dickhead Hall of Famer. La Liga is obviously going to the United States this year, and the players are not happy. Their version of the PFA met with the likes of Sergio Busquets and Sergio Ramos over the past couple of days. They don't want to play overseas. Things have to be done in a more coherent way and with common sense. A decision of this magnitude that affects players, referees and fans was taken unilaterally and is a lack of respect. So this fella, Aganzo, who's head of that corporation, says, "I have information that there are certain clubs that are in favour and others against this being a strike. We need to sort this out with the union and we'll tell them all of our problems. If from then on, after a few days, they don't answer, then we will have to solve the situation." They might reach the extreme level of actually going on strike here because they feel not only about the decision, they don't feel aggrieved just about the decision, but about the volume of the decision. A 15-year agreement with Relevant Sports, which is a long time. And finally, Saido Berahino was playing for Stoke yesterday. He got taken off and he hasn't scored a goal in a long time, says Richard Jolly. Still alive when he last scored. Johan Cruyff, Carlos Alberto, Muhammad Ali, Nancy Reagan, Fidel Castro, Zaza Gabor, Rick Parfitt, Ronnie Corbett, and all 3/3 of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Not been a good season so far for Stoke City, and it's just been a bad decade for Saido Berahino.
Let's move on. We're talking about the Mayo story. We're going to bring you Cian Lynch's mum Valerie in just a couple of minutes. First, though, we're going to just give you a bit of an explainer about what the hell is going on in Mayo women's football. Carnacon, apparently not one of the most popular clubs in Mayo football. Ed McGreal of the Mayo News was on the show last night explaining why.
I spoke to Kevin MacDonald about that, and I asked, for instance, what was the difference between the 8 Carnacon players and the Carnacon club being sanctioned as opposed to the 4 other players from 3 other clubs, Hollymount, Castlebar, Mitchells and Knockmore, if I'm not mistaken, that they weren't sanctioned or punished. So where was the difference between the two? And he said the situation, the sanction was unique to Carnacon because other players left of an individual nature for personal reasons. Carnacon withdrew their players. They contacted the county manager and withdrew their services. That was what was seen by the meeting as having brought the game into disrepute. It was the action of the club rather than its players. So Carnacon contacted Mayo senior manager Peter Leahy at the start of all of this in early July to inform the Mayo manager that they were withdrawing their players from the Mayo senior championship squad for what was later stated by the players to be issues around player welfare. We don't know exactly how the conversation went with the Carnacon representative and Peter Leahy at the time, but player welfare issues sensitive to the players involved were the reasons given in a statement through the WGPA on Tuesday, July 10th. So that's why Carnacon were, I suppose, singled out here, that they acted as a club in a way that Mayo Ladies County Board and its delegates felt was...
Mother actually hopped over the fence and got onto the pitch in Croke Park yesterday. I'd say there's still no warrant out for her, but you know, it means so much to everyone, like, which is unbelievable. So
I don't know if you've seen the photograph yet, but there's an amazing photograph of you and your mum just hugging on the pitch.
Is there? I didn't see it now at all. She probably has it already herself.
Oh, it's class. It's in the papers. It's
is it?
Yeah. We found it on info anyway, so we'll send it to you. But it's just,
it'll be great.
It's just brilliant. Do you remember? Did you talk to her? Do you remember anything you actually said to her?
No. Even lads were saying what they feel like after the game. Like, but I kind of put the head down. I actually struggled to breathe for a few minutes, like, because you're kind of saying, "Jeez, we're after winning All Ireland, like it's a dream come true." But I remember the mother. She jumped up out of nowhere and I grabbed her and just put the head on her shoulder, and it was actually a moment where I could actually just breathe for a second and kind of take in my own surroundings and realise, you know what, this is what it's about. You know, she was the woman that was there for me from the very beginning with the whole family, like, and just to see her there on the pitch, whether the shorts after or the shorts not, like, just see her smiling and going around to everyone. You know, it puts it all into perspective, really.
I don't know if your phone is charged, but Tommy has just WhatsApped you the picture there if you want to have a look at it. I don't know if you're getting photographs or if you managed to plug it in last night, you were doing pretty well.
Oh, Tommy Rooney, hold on here now a second.
There you go, that's it.
If that's the only message on his phone this morning now, he hasn't.
I have another oh jeez, I see it. Some hit me, don't I? Jesus, yeah, that's lovely now, in fairness. She'd be delighted with that. Just see her smiling and going around to everyone.
There you go.
Really.
Yeah, so that was the story from Monday morning. I can confirm that we have Valerie Lynch on the line. Valerie, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
I'm very well. Can I ask you exactly how you managed to get on the field of play when everybody in Limerick was trying to do it, but you actually managed it?
Well, now that's a big top secret, but I can tell you honestly, it wasn't planned or premeditated, but I had great assistance and a lovely gentleman, and it paid to be very small. That's all I can say. And there was no stopping me.
Did you tell him that my son's out there and I'm going out to see him?
I had a nice little word. I didn't even say my son. I don't believe in that my son nonsense. I said one moment, one hug, I'll be back. And then I got out and then I said, oh my God. I didn't know. I ran like the clatters. So I was delighted I got to Cian because Cian actually was just standing and he wasn't breathing at all. And I gave him a slap on the back and rubbed him up and he bawled into my shoulders. I had the moment and I ran back.
My son's out there and I'm What was that like? Because he actually said to us that he was finding it difficult to breathe, and then he could actually just have this moment of release.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. He was actually in shock. I knew by his face he wasn't breathing. So I put my hand, gave him a slap, and he
it looks like
he just bawled. He just bawled in my shoulders.
Yeah, and like obviously there's just this kind of instinct that kicks in that you just need to get there from your perspective.
Absolutely. I just knew he needed it, and by God he did. And I just held him, and he released the tears and left a big sigh out, and I just slapped him and told him, go enjoy this, I'm so proud. And I ran off.
I want to just play you this as well, because this is obviously not the very first time that you've managed to make it onto the field of play. Here is your brother talking to Pat Kenny on Monday morning about his own experience of you meeting him after an All-Ireland final. Have a listen. This is Kieran Carey talking on Monday.
But I see a lovely picture this morning, actually. Cian Lynch's mother, Valerie, who's my sister, and she's given him a big hug. And I can remember 96, she was the first person I met on the field, and it was a total opposite. So it's kind of ironic. And that picture at the time at the front of the Limerick leader as well. So, it was fantastic for him.
Yeah, now we found that picture from the Limerick leader, and the Limerick leader actually thought it was Kieran Carey's wife at the time, but it was you, and clearly that was an instinctive kind of thing as well, where you just wanted to get out to your brother to help him.
Oh, indeed, I can remember that day very well. It's where we were actually sitting, and he was only a couple of yards from me, and he was outstanding. I remember that game quite well, and I just jumped that barrier, and he fell into my arms. But they all said it was Miriam, and I didn't mind, but it was just a lovely moment because I felt the pain. But it was ironic because he was crying for the loss, but Cian was crying for the win. But I'm a huge Cian fan and Pa fan and a Limerick fan, so it means everything. It does mean everything. It's a huge family. It's historic, It is fiercely emotional.
Of course it is.
The whole thing, yeah.
And I'd say it hasn't stopped at all since, the victory is kind of the start of it, but it's all the stuff that happens afterwards as well that kind of brings home to you just how important the whole thing is to the community.
It's huge. I can tell you, we're exhausted from emotions. We were in bed. I can't even catch up on the sleep. But the build up to the match, you're buying into the whole thing. But it's a big difference being a sister fan and a mother fan. I miss being the mad fanatic Limerick fan because you have to rein it in and hold it all. So we've learned from Cian, I can tell you. But it's just outstanding. It really is, yeah. He has grounded us all. He nearly killed me for the week,
What was that week actually like?
Listen, if we were to tell you the truth, for years I've been watching all these fantastic Kilkenny families, Tipperary, the whole shag and lot of them. Oh, 'tis wonderful. 'Tis death. It's hell on earth getting ready for an All-Ireland. But it's just wonderful. Saturday was the worst, longest day of my life waiting for it. He nearly killed me. I told him I'm going to kill him this week. Cool as a breeze going around, focus, and we don't know our heads from our elbows. Up and down, in and out, getting nowhere. But staying focused. I kept it so low-key. John Kiely was spot on. Low-key, keep it down, cool.
What is Cian like in the build-up to a big game?
I love that now because he's killing me with his breastfeeding and all that. He is so he's a bowel belt. He's absolutely the most determined young person I've ever come across. He's so focused. He's such a leader. He's so ordinary and normal. And when you meet Cian and when I meet Cian, that's Cian. He doesn't change. Cian is Cian. He is himself. But I know his moves. I know his needs. He never asks for anything. But he's just Cian. He is so focused, it scares me at times.
Yeah, like the focus is one thing, but actually maintaining the humility is another thing because, we've all known Cian for a few years and he's been on the national scene for a few years, and when you get that at a very young age, it can sometimes go to one's head, but that's never happened with Cian. Like, is that just a natural part of his character, or has he actually had to work on that a little bit?
He has been like that, I'd say, since he's playing hurling. He started with his father under 2 and 3 puck and ball. I think getting involved with soccer at a very young age, professionalism, unbelievable. He's fierce humble, he's fierce soulful. I'd be so excited after winning a match. Relax, man, nothing won yet. He just has those lines. But how he releases, he sings his arse off morning, noon and night, dancing and driving us all mad, He has his releases, he has his own way of dealing with it. His mental strength is excellent. And he's just cool and calm and mentally strong. and a great young fella.
He's apparently a big Westlife fan. World of Our Own, is that one of his favourites?
Listen, he's a fierce fan. Listen, if I had to tell you the songs, he varies his music. Ed Sheeran, Westlife, he'd come often and he'd have the High Kings and the Wolf Tones. He has such a mix, and he's a great house singer himself. That's his stuff. But I mean, all those lads, from Cian, from Nicky Quaid right through, I'm so proud of all of them, and all the past hurlers of Limerick. I just love it. I'm proud of all hurlers because I love it. But at the end of the day, it's the way they hold themselves. I mean, I had no doubt. I fell into the belief mode, but I believed it this time. We weren't just saying it. They were like Vikings coming out there. There was no one going to take that cup off Limerick. That's a fact.
Owen mentioned that we've known Cian now for a couple of years as a hurler. He was very young coming into the senior team. Were you concerned because there's pressure on any kid coming through, especially someone who has his heritage and his family and coming from the club that he comes from? It's it's such an important club in Limerick's history, and Kieran Carey is such a big character on the national stage that there was this huge expectation. Were you were you naturally concerned and thinking maybe actually we should hold this back a year or two, or what did you think at the time?
I can always remember, in actual fact, when he broke on to the senior, and I also remember he was doing his leaving cert, and Kieran was involved with the 21s, and he had Cian down. I nearly fought with Kieran because Mammy steps in and he's my young fella and he's doing his studies and all that goes with being a parent. But Cian himself, his release while he was studying is his sport. He was well able to participate. I've never seen him studying, by the way, and he achieves so much. He just fits it in. So I know his character, but I was glad the day he became 18, because that's when you have to step back as a parent. I can't protect him. His father was a great protector as much as he can. Because as you know, when you're a young fella, everyone's pulling and dragging. It's a 7-day gig. So yeah, I would worry. Of course I'd worry. He's had injuries and all that goes with it. The ice packs, the whole shebang, the grind. I'm coming to mind now is Gary Kirby, and I love Gary. He's one of my greatest fans, we'll say. I love his free taking, but I nearly killed Garry Kirby at the county final when Cian was going on with a half a leg. I wanted to question, where are they going? So yeah, you do worry, but there was no fear. Cian was well up for breaking into that. He was skillful enough for it.
What's Patrick's well been like over the past couple of days? I presume for Cian it's been so special for him to have someone like Aaron Gillan in there in the team with him. I'm sure they've been close to best friends for years and years and years.
Well, we say Aaron Gillan and Dermot and all the Patrick's well boys, past and present. Listen, they are just all buddies, all mates, but their support is phenomenal. Our club is massive, and they are so proud. Everywhere you're going, every mother, chick, grandmother, everybody is out, and everyone you meet now, they just even can't speak. So I can tell you they're looking forward to the cup coming to Patrick's Well, hopefully on Saturday. But we're so proud of our three boys, absolutely, starting and actually having a huge part to play in the team.
I was just thinking afterwards when we were talking to him on Monday morning, there was a bit of a... Very early on in the game, in the first 2 minutes, there was a pick-up in midfield where he kind of just tapped the ball, and you were like, okay, that's grand. I'm delighted he's got that out of his system now, where his touch is in straight away in the match, and he got a chance and he got on the ball. So very early on, it was clear that this All-Ireland final wasn't going to pass him by. What's that experience like for you? Are you watching that as well, going, okay, right, we're at it now today, this is fine?
Yeah, because we're so long at this, I so know Cian's form. The bigger the day, the better he'll fire. He will never leave anyone down. I don't worry one bit about him. You'll never hear me roaring and shouting for him. I roar and shout for the rest of them. I back off totally. I don't worry about him. He's well up for it mentally and physically and strength. There's nothing past him, yeah.
Can you relax at all in these games?
I'm very lucky. I'm always up in the disabled section of all the parks with my great friend Jim Hurley. It's just as well because no one likes to sit beside me because I roar and shout. So he's always bruised. So I'm exceptionally relaxed, but I have made great friends. And on that note, a big shout out to Paddy English, Rich English's dad, who isn't very well, but we missed him terribly at the match. So we'd all be up in the disabled section, and they all knew where I was going when I took off on that most 7 minutes to go. Walking down the steps, remembering awfully, remembering 96. and I kept going because I knew we were going to do it.
Even when the goals are going in,
I still knew.
Right.
No, I still knew. I still knew we were not going to. There was going to be a Viking out in front of those goals. Poor Joe Canning, who I love hurling. He's an outstanding young man. That was a fantastic. He played brilliant. But that ball, if that was to lob in the square, anything could have happened. But I just knew we were getting this.
And Valerie, what happened afterwards? Like, so after, did you come off the field? Did you go back?
I did what I was, honest to God, I did. I just did my hug. The 2 Patrick Swell boys, I met them. A few other lads were trying to grab me. I ran like Knight Rider. I went back and I thanked the gentleman, and some fans helped me back up. And I went on my walk with Jim with our wheelchair, and it took us an hour and a half. We soaked it up. I didn't meet anyone else then for a couple of hours later. I met loads of people. We were singing Limerick You're a Lady. We were having a great time, just soaking, enjoying it. And I'm still savouring it. Nice and relaxed.
Well, I hope the feeling of joy never leaves you, Valerie. Great stuff. Thanks a million for joining us today. It's been a brilliant story all week.
You're more than welcome. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks a million. It's Valerie Lynch there, Cian Lynch's mum, talking about exactly what it's like to break that cordon. I mean, like, it was dangerous, I'm telling you. Like, we saw a guy trying to get on from the hill, and he was not very well treated when he tried to get on. He was like, four guards were sitting on him and handcuffed him and led him away. So Valerie obviously has a bit more charm than the guy who was trying to break on from the hill.
I'm sure that guy was let go. He was like used as an example.
They made an example of him.
You weren't tempted to like crowd surf your way down to the pitch after seeing that guy anyway?
No.
Like, how would you have gone about getting onto the pitch? Do you think it would have been possible?
No. No, it's not really. Bring a fake microphone, that's the only thing you can do.
Well, there you go, there's an idea. Shouldn't
have given that one away, should I?
No, it's, I've always wondered, it's like, because it's just like a bit of netting, it's like 2-3 rows. Like, if you're quick enough and roll over that netting quickly enough.
But there was definitely, like, one area where loads of people were allowed to come out. It looked like Plan B was just about to be into operation, and then they were like, no, we're doing our jobs here. So, there was a sense that if Limerick didn't invade the pitch, who was saying this? It's up to Mayo now. Was that Conor McKeown here?
Yeah. It's our last hope. Waterford, maybe. It's really the last bastion of hope when it comes to getting a Plan B back on that big screen. You need to almost have a giant meeting of the 50,000 Mayo fans that will show up at an All-Ireland and say, listen, you do this, you do this, you distract that Stuart, you pretend to go into labour, you bring a microphone.
You bring a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
Here, look, come on.
And you bring an orange bib. You're going to be a Stuart that opens the gate for us.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's the one that you want, the actual Stuart.
It's like Ocean's 14 or whatever the next one in the series is. Ocean's 14, Mayo fans instigate Plan B.
We do have to have a debate a little bit later on this week about who's going to win All-Ireland first.
Yeah, later on this week at some point, despite the fact that it is Thursday. And
it's going to be next week now.
Yeah, it's going to be next week.
Mayo versus Waterford is there anybody else who could go in that? I mean,
well, they are the two most famous remaining famines.
I mean, Kildare, 1928, but like they're just not a realistic contender at the minute.
No, but you know, once you get Jimmy Hyland up to the senior ranks over the next few years, maybe Kildare become a senior contender once again. And we'll save that debate for 2020.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2019, who knows? Come roaring back up to Division 1.
All right, let's stick with the hurling. Peter Duggan apparently was on the verge of throwing his lot in, kind of saying he'd had enough as a hurler, and then all of a sudden this year decided, no, actually, I'm going to give one last spin. And you caught up with him yesterday.
Yeah, down at the PwC headquarters. He was PwC Player of the Month for July. So it's kind of a bit of a backlog giving out these awards just because of how intense the games were during August. So he's there in brilliant form, chatted a good bit about the club, about his season, and as you say, about the comeback, because it has been a season of arrival for Peter Duggan. So here's how our conversation went yesterday. Peter, how are things?
Good, no. Good, fairness.
Let's get straight into it. Limerick All-Ireland champions. You're the only team to have beaten them this year. How does that feel?
I don't know if that reflects too much now on that Limerick team. They were brilliant. Delighted from coming into the game. Didn't really bother me too much who was going to win. I think I was. I don't really know if I was voting for Limerick to win, but when the ball was thrown in, I was absolutely delighted. It was brilliant to see him win, and you can see how much it meant to the whole of Limerick too. And it's just nice. It's nice to have a different winner.
Yeah.
To see like last year with Watford and Waterford and Galway. It was great, just not having the usual 1 or 2 winning. It's nice to always see a different team come up along. Like,
it's very true. We were talking about this the other day, that the championship has obviously been unbelievable, but when you look at the wider spectrum of things, there's been 5 different winners this decade. There was 6 in the 90s, which is widely regarded as the best decade in the history of hurling. We're not far off at the moment, are we?
Oh no, exactly. It just shows the standard of hurling that is these days. Like, there's 8 teams out there that can all contest for an All-Ireland, and all with equal enough ability. Like the thought of now Munster next year is terrifying me. Like 5 teams with very similar abilities, all going hell for leather for each other. It's like, I think in general now this championship really brought out the true nature of hurling and its aggressiveness, and like it's terrifying the thought of 2019 because whatever good 2018 was, 2019 could be scandalous altogether.
Scandalous, that's a good way of putting it. Let's hope it is. You notched 376 this year in the championship. It's some tally. I dare say there's one point that you might select as your best score of the year, though. That one against Galway that hopped up for you, that you kind of hopped up for yourself, which everybody is still puzzled by, I think.
Yeah, likewise. I'm puzzled myself. Lucky. That's the only way I can put it. Could have just as easily. I think I thought that I had an advantage, so I just said, you know what, sure, look, give it a go and see if it goes over, and lucky enough it went over. Was it based mostly on instinct, that, or is it something you've done before? I've been messing about the field. I think the main part of hurling that I enjoy is going down to the field, poking around with the lads before training and things like that. So I've been messing around one-handed, messing around, and so it kind of be in the back of the head a small little bit, but at the same time, for it to actually work out is lucky, is the best way to put it, really. Is it the best point you've ever scored? I'd say it'll be up there, but I don't know, like, it's at the same time there are scores there that other lads do that are I consider 10 times better, and I'd be putting mine down as lucky, so I don't know really. I'm not sure about that. So just in terms in general this year, like when you look at a score like that, when you look at the 376 as I mentioned there that you scored, there's no luck about that. It came from a season of excellent form, not just from frees but from play as well. Like, did this season feel like a bit of an arrival for you? Yeah, well, look, I was saying to the lads inside, like I thoroughly enjoyed my time last year with Clooney, and it just made hurling a lot more enjoyable. To like other years might have been a struggle. Your year is so long that coming towards the middle of the year, like, you'd be burnt out. You'd want a few days off, or whatever it'd be. Like this year, I just found hurling so much more enjoyable. Just I had a starting place, and like from our run with Clooney last year, getting to the county final, it just kind of made everything a lot easier. Everything kind of just flowed a lot easier. But this year was kind of that was the main difference. I think this year, a bit more confidence in my ability. I kind of knew what I can and can't do, and it just kind of enjoyed myself, really. Yeah, like, where does that confidence come from? Is it, as you mentioned there, just the starting place? Is that a huge boost, really, in terms of getting that confidence? Yeah, that would mainly be it. Like, but look, it just I know what I can do from hitting frees and things like that. Like, and I know I miss a good chunk, but you get your confidence throughout the game. If you do one thing good, it makes it easier to do the next thing, if you know what I mean. Like, yeah, like if you miss a free, it's a lot easier to miss another free. But if you score a free, it's a lot easier to score the next one. It's just in general, I'd never really go by a game. Like, if you have a good game, doesn't mean you're going to have a good game again. I think it's moments in a game which can make the next moment easier, if you understand what I mean. Yeah, no, definitely. Because it's interesting you say that, because Patrick O'Connor was actually speaking this summer and saying that confidence was the main reason why Peter Duggan has become a household name in hurling this summer. That, like, did you really feel you were struggling with the confidence previously? Yeah, well, I love playing. I love playing game in, game out, and understanding what you can and can't do. You know what I mean? And I haven't really had a chance over the last few years of nailing down a spot that I was there for a game or two. Like if you look at the Cork game this year, the first game, I was absolutely horrific. I don't think I touched the ball, but I was lucky enough that they stayed starting me, and lucky enough I got a few scores after that. Like, I think what game was after, there was Waterford inside the park. Didn't even have a great game inside Waterford. I don't think I missed a free that day. I was just lucky, but from play I didn't, and lucky enough that they just kept me on the team, and I kind of just got used to playing at inter-county level, because like I'm on the Clare panel for 7 years now. I think this is my 7th year, like, and just to not have a place, you'd find it difficult to you find it difficult to know what to do on the ball, because you don't really, like, compared to Clooney. When I get the ball to Clooney, I know I'll just try and score.
Okay.
Whereas it's different with Clare. You have
got to track back a bit more and stuff.
Your whole game changes completely. Like, so it's just now I'm kind of somewhat used to playing at intercounty level. So it just makes each game a little bit easier, because my understanding of what I have to do is a lot. When you know that, it makes everything a lot easier, because you're less thoughts during the game.
And is there more clarity coming from the management then this year that helps that?
No, not really. Just in general, most of the county managers would tell you the same thing. Like,
okay.
It was just the fact that I had a few games under my belt and just got used to what I had to do. That's what kind of stuck in my head. Like, you have to track back, you have to try and get a few turnovers, win the ball, look at your offloads, things like that. Like, whereas I wouldn't have. Well, I still would have known what to do, but I wouldn't have had the same flow, because I wouldn't have been playing the whole time, if you understand what I mean.
Sure, no, it makes perfect sense, because you mentioned you've been in the panel for 7 years, and Davey, as well as Patrick O'Connor this summer, didn't mention confidence. He mentioned hard work and tackling as the reason why you've become the player that everybody's talking. One of the players we've been talking about this summer. Like, you've kind of pointed it out there yourself, that the tackling is something tracking back a bit more, and that work rate, like that's really something now this summer that you've clearly got right. But that only comes from being mentally fresh and mentally able to put in that effort, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, if you're burnt out from hurling, you'd find that you'd see that you wouldn't see as many tackles going in, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. Like, that burnout question is very, very interesting as well, because when you think about it, you're only at the age of 25. I think you've only made like 12 championship starts or something. Yeah. But at the same time, at the age of 25, I wonder, do you feel that you've got a lot of miles on the clock?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, hurling is it's a full-time job now. Like, you're a hurler before you're anything else. Like, people look at you in the street and think you're a hurler. You're not a college student. You're a hurler, and that's what people have in their head.
Does that bother you?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Because it doesn't last long. So, like, anytime anyone would ever ask you to do something, you'd always do it, because you remember that things don't last as like you've only got a few years of it. You embrace it, enjoy it, and look back on it with pride. Then compared to saying no to jobs or no to different things. Like, if you don't do them now, you'll never have the opportunity again. So I enjoy it, really.
Yeah. It's an interesting one though, isn't it, having that balance? What do you prioritise? Because if you look at one of your own teammates there, Shane O'Donnell has clearly made the decision to go to Harvard next year, and I guess we don't know whether or not he'll be involved in the championship next year. It'll be tough given how early the championship seasons are, given the intercounty training sessions start and all that sort of stuff. So he's obviously gone the other direction, and I guess it's just up to each individual which they prioritise more. But ultimately, if it's a scholarship to Harvard, it kind of it's a bit of an anomaly. Exactly. Like,
I would look, if you know Shane's a genius. Like, and he's one of the nicest lads you'll ever talk to. Like, and in fairness to him, you're not going to refuse an opportunity to go to Harvard. It's one thing that you look back on and with absolute pride. Like, in fairness to him, like, I think the whole hurling community out there is absolutely thrilled and delighted for him. And if he comes back next year in time for hurling, extra bonus, really.
What were you doing other than hurling this summer? Were you working with Clare GAA in terms of keeping, or like groundskeeping, basically?
I'm in LIT, studying business and sports, so out placement this year, so I was kind of tipping away at the county board, doing a bit of everything, kind of in the office for a small bit, and then doing all their maintenance for the field and things like that. Just, I enjoy it. I love working my hands, so I was only happy out to. And in fairness to them, they understand then, like, we'll say coming up here for a day like today, and whatever, if I need to take off for Friday before a game to stay fresh, it's very handy that I was lucky enough to be with the county board, that they understand.
They probably understand.
Yeah, they understand completely. So I was lucky, but at the same time now I'm finishing up college now this year, so I'm going to have to go on the hunt for something new.
It's quite the summer to be involved in grounds maintenance with Clare GAA, the first game in Cusack Park in 21 years, so the pressure was on to get that one right.
Oh yeah, exactly. But I love it. There's a good bunch inside of the county board, the fairness, so there'll be a bit of a laugh about, so wouldn't mind it at all. It's actually a bit of a thrill when you cut the field and you're out playing on it a few days later. Like, it's a bit of crack. Like,
yeah, you get kind of the inside scoop if there's a few bad patches. I'm sure there was no bad patches in the pitch.
No, there wouldn't.
Because I saw Brendan Bugler actually tweeting around that game saying he did a mighty job off the pitch, and then he did a mighty job on the pitch with the hurley in the hand as well.
Yeah, I love doing it anyway. So just it's nice you can get you can be thinking away of what you're doing, your kind of visualisation when you'll be cutting the field. Like you'll be thinking, geez, what do I do here? I would, you'll be only cutting grass. You don't need to concentrate too much. Like you'll be thinking away of moments in the game. What should I do here? Thinking away of frees and things like that. Like
that's remarkable. That's a real kind of leg up in terms of people who are into visualisation as a free taker, especially.
It's cool now, and I just always have done it, because I could be cutting grass a few days of the week, like, and you don't need your full concentration, like you're only driving in a straight line, like. So like, we'll be thinking away there of moments in the game that you could, just to have it in the head, just so when the opportunity arises, like we'll say if it's free in the corner, you've ran through it a few times, and it just makes it easier, like.
Yeah, definitely. Just to wrap up then, Clooney, you're back in with the club obviously over the next few weeks, first round of the championship coming up. You were in a county final last year. How special would it be to top off a good personal 2018 for you with a county medal?
You've no idea how much that would mean to me. If we won a Canon, I don't know. It's hard to put into words, but that'd be a lifetime ambition of mine, would be to get a Canon for Clunaquin. Yeah,
like especially given the community, they speak so highly of you down there as well. Just given some of the pieces that were written about you before that All-Ireland semi-final.
Clooney is everything to me. I think club is the main thing in for most hurlers or most footballers. Your club is everything. Like they bring you up along. They like. If anyone in the club ever asked me to do anything, I wouldn't think twice. I'd just go and do it, like, because you remember, like I remember when I was younger, I used to look up to Bruiser, Fergal Lynch, like. I used to look up to him, and I remember Martin, my older brother then, would have been very good friends with Fergal. I remember Fergal would be calling away to the house, like, and I'd be looking up, idolising him, like. I remember I asked him for I don't even actually remember asking him for a jersey, but someday he just landed over the jersey. He was like, "Do you want me to sign that now?"
No way.
And I was like, yeah, it's just as shy as anything, like. And I kind of, from that, I remember how much that meant to me, and I said, "You know what, if anyone ever asked me for anything, I'd never think twice about saying no. Like, I just go do it, or if someone asked for something, I just go and give it to them, because you remember as a child, it means so much more to you as a child. So I just never, you never say no, like."
Peter Duggan, just a good all-round guy, and one of the stars of the summer. Probably in line for an All-Star, certainly in the conversation anyway, when the nominations for the PwC All-Stars come out. He's definitely going to be there. Darren is here with a roundup of what's going on. How are you?
Morning, Chair. Very well. Republic of Ireland international James McLean was reportedly involved in a bust-up last night with teammates during their 3-0 defeat to Wigan in the Championship. It has been a nightmare start for McLean at the club under Garry Ringrose. Just 2 points from 4 games in the Championship, beaten 3-0. Ashley Williams sent off in that match, leaves them second from bottom. McLean involved in what is being described this morning as an altercation with the goalkeeper Jack Butland and the team captain Ryan Shawcross. While Sheffield Wednesday collected their first victory of the new season, they ended Millwall's unbeaten start to the campaign. Aston Villa Brentford played out an entertaining 2-2 draw in front of the Everton winger Yannick Bolasie, who was reportedly set for a loan move to Steve Bruce's side. While a pair of Charlie Mulgrew penalties saw Blackburn Rovers come from 2 down at home to deny Reading their first win of the season. Bolton moved level with the leaders Leeds United and Middlesbrough after beating Birmingham City by 1-0.
Very happy Ger Gilroy there with the Yannick Bolasie news.
Well, I just said he was due to sign somewhere else. He was like, it had been announced by some other club 3 or 4 days ago. I was like, oh, that's... Will Grigg was on fire, by the way, for Wigan. Everybody needs to know that.
Will Grigg was on fire. The song, it lives once again. While Carnacon will appeal the decision to boot them from the Mayo Ladies Senior Football Championship, a meeting of the County Board in Castlebar on Tuesday voted to expel the defending champions from the 2018 competition. They were adjudged to have brought the game into disrepute, and they punished them after 12 players, 8 of which play for the club, made the decision to withdraw from the Mayo panel before June's All-Ireland qualifier with Cavan. Player welfare cited as the reason for that. The Mayo Ladies Gaelic Board Secretary Kevin McDonnell quoted today in the Irish Times saying, "It was the feeling of the meeting that some action needed to be taken. The delegates voted by 26-2 to remove them from the league and championship." I want to bring you some archive audio now from the Mayo Ladies Senior Football manager Peter Leahy. This is from July 14th after they beat Cavan, a little over a week after that walkout, and he addressed the departures and how the exodus unfolded.
Firstly, it's correct that 12 girls who are on the panel have left, but it is incorrect to state they have all left for the same apparent reason. We will go through the timeline and the facts of how we as management heard the players' departure. On Thursday, July the 5th, roughly 1 hour before our training session in the Centre of Excellence in Beacon, and 10 days before our All-Ireland and Series Championship match, I received a call from a particular club secretary. I was informed by the said person that all 8 members of that club were withdrawing from the county panel on the grounds of player welfare. I immediately informed the County Board chairperson, who in turn set the appropriate process in place. I then informed the remaining members of the panel of this club's decision, and we went on to have a full session with the remaining panel that night. Over the next 5 days, 4 more members of the panel removed themselves from the county panel. 3 of these 4 wrote messages to our liaison officer, stating purely personal reasons for leaving the panel, and not the reasons quoted by the previous 8. The other member who has removed herself from the county panel has not given any communication to any member of the county management to date. As previously stated in the Mayo LGFA County Executive Statement, they are continuing to give all the appropriate help to all parties involved and will continue with the process set in place. As manager, I want to clearly state that at no stage has any player ever been asked to leave the panel, and I respect every player's right to choose to be involved at county level or to leave the panel.
What was that last line again?
He respects the choice of any player to be involved in county player, or if they choose not to be involved in the county panel.
Okay, except the Mayo County Board decided that they're going to throw the whole club out of the senior championship because those players made that choice, even though the senior county manager says he respects the choice of the players not to play. What's going to happen in this case, do you think?
It's a pretty interesting development. The suggestion is maybe perhaps it's not that the players made the decisions as individuals, it's that the club made the call to pull them on the back of player welfare concerns raised by a couple of players. That seems to be the issue, is that there was a bit of a mob mentality activated as opposed to the players all individually deciding we want to walk away.
Then the individual players chose not to show up that day to training. Like, you know, they're grown-ups too, so it will be interesting to see what happens here. But it's mad. It's mad that the Mayo County Board have walked themselves into this river of shit on purpose.
What's even more crazy is how overwhelming it was that they decided it needed to happen. The sense is perhaps there's something unsaid that's unknown at this point. I mean, no one has really commented about what the actual player welfare issues are and how it only affects half of the panel seemingly.
There's more to come.
More to come, actually. Watch this space. Ireland look to add to their medal haul at the World Para-Athletics European Championships in Berlin later. Jordan Lee takes part in the men's high jump. That's the T47 final. Jason Smith hoping to add to the gold medal. He's running in the 100 metres T13 heats later. David Levy goes in the final of the men's 1500 metres. That's the T38 classification. Patrick Monaghan runs in the 800 metres T53. Noelle Lennon smashed her own world record not once but twice yesterday on the way to European Championship gold, while Orla Comerford claimed a bronze for Ireland in the T13 200 metres. While in golf, Vice-Captain Padraig Harrington says it's going to be tough to choose Europe's 4 wild cards for next month's Ryder Cup against the USA. The penultimate qualifying tournament starts this morning. That's the Czech Masters in Prague just underway. 8 players gain automatic selection, and Harrington reckons Europe have great depth.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of discussion about, picks at the moment. It's quite active. There's a good few names in the hat. I can tell you that. It's tough, and there's still 2 more weeks to go, and I'm sure those 2 weeks there will be some changes in that time as well. Going to be a great tournament no matter what. I'm confident that we have a team that's good enough to win, yes, but it will be tight, no doubt about it. Decisions made on the week can make all the difference, that's for sure. How players play, momentum, it is that close nowadays that it will come down to it's likely to come down to the wire no matter what. So but we have a good team, and I suppose it's up to Thomas and his vice captains to make sure we get the most out of that team.
Ryder Cup fever hasn't quite kicked off just yet.
The excitement isn't really there just yet. There's so much else going on, but when it does eventually get going, I saw pictures online yesterday of them actually building the stands on the course, and it kind of got me a little bit excited for it. I'm not going to lie, it was when it started to dawn on me that it's just around the corner.
Like, we're also in a perfect state as European fans for this to be one of the best Ryder Cups ever, because all year it's been like, well, are they going to absolutely destroy us, or is it going to be a healthy win? Nobody was even entertaining the idea of a narrow win for the United States. They were going to have a healthy win or absolutely destroy Europe. And then over the last 2 months it's kind of been, Francesco Molinari's playing very well there. Rory McIlroy's got his season together. Is his putting improving? Do I see some light at the end of the tunnel? Do I see myself sitting in my living room roaring at the television on the Sunday of the Ryder Cup this year? I think I do.
It's your European flag,
my
a proud
European flag. It's like go with the European Union is all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, and Great Britain or England.
Well, they're still part of the European Union at the moment, Joe. It's the last real Ryder Cup.
It's the last one ever, properly. I mean, they'll go back to playing we'll have a decision to make. Will we play with Great Britain and it'll be Team GB in Ireland like it used to be in the great old days, or will it be suddenly Europe minus England?
Well, that's the thing. It's almost as ridiculous as Australia competing in the Eurovision. Great Britain competing in the Ryder Cup post-Brexit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sickening. It's disgusting.
That would suddenly get that conservative cohort of voters in England to go, oh, hang on a second, no more Ryder Cup?
Yeah.
No, we made a big mistake here. Brexit doesn't mean Ryder Cup Brexit, does it?
I've changed my mind. All right, so one of the things that we have been luxuriating in over the course of the week in the aftermath of Limerick's amazing victory was the speech that John Kiely gave after his club won a Junior B title in, I think, 95 or 96, around that time anyway. So a long time ago when he was a young man, and there was just this kind of force of nature in the aftermath of the club's first senior title. It was a Junior B title, but it meant an awful lot to him and to the people involved. And one of the stars of that video was a little kid at the front of it. Just have a look at this, and we're going to talk to the star of it immediately after.
There was one night only a fortnight ago and it did lash rain. It was a pure storm and we got covered in shit and puddle outside in the field. But that's what wins championships. That's what wins county medals.
Right, that little kid was Pat Cusson. Pat, good morning to you.
Good morning, lads.
How are you doing?
Well, all right.
You've gone viral.
I see that, all right, yeah. Yesterday, the phone didn't stop.
Tell us, do you remember that day at all? Like, is that in any way part of your memory as a kid?
Not really, no. I knew the video was there, but when it started with sharing yesterday morning and Monday evening, it was just shared locally, but I seen that then he had it and Sports Joe had it and lots of others had it. But like, as I say, I wasn't even 5 at the time.
Yeah.
So,
look, it's great. Tell us a little bit about what the town has been like for the last week, will you? Because, I mean, obviously, John Kiely's somebody that the whole country now knows, but kind of was a bit under the radar, really, for a long period of time. You guys obviously know him really well. What's he like? And what's the town been like this week in the build-up and aftermath of the game?
Oh, it's been phenomenal. Last night, he brought the cup back to Galway. So it was a good night in Galway. Now, I'm not there, but there could have been a couple of thousand people at it. So he's an amazing man. Like he's meticulous in everything he does. He's everything down to a T. He leaves last to nothing.
You've worked with him. You carried hurls for him at one stage when he was in charge of the Limerick Intermediate team. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's
What was your gig? Sorry, what was your gig?
Oh, just carrying the hurlers. Just as a neighbour of mine, he just wanted a bit of a hand. So.
Yeah. Okay. It does seem like it was one of those kind of things where the whole county has just had this massive, mad outpouring of emotion in the aftermath, and I don't know if you feel like the whole country is absolutely delighted for you. It's kind of, I don't really remember an All-Ireland victory sparking such joy and happiness around the country as much as this one has.
No, but you see, Limerick it's a mad sporting county, be it hurling, football, rugby, soccer, and when a team like the Limerick Hurlers are started success for 45 years, of course you're going to get this pure raw emotion. And look, hopefully they'll be around for the next number of years. And it won't be another 45 years before we win one.
No. The other thing I think is that like we kind of have got to know a fair few of them over the time, and it turns out they're all really nice people above all else, and that's, I think, the other thing that kind of is getting people behind them.
Yeah, they all seem very genuine, down to earth, and they're a bunch of young fellas, and you know, they know nothing else.
No, it's true. Pat, I've seeing the video now and your own joy at hearing a curse word and being allowed to kind of laugh at it, like, it is kind of funny.
Oh, it is, as I was saying earlier. So at that age, you're just waiting for somebody to say something like that. And even thinking back in it now and looking back in the video, you nearly still start laughing at it. It's not often you hear somebody saying that.
Good stuff, Pat. Thanks a million for joining us, and cheers for being such a good sport. Pat Cusson there, star of undoubtedly one of the Irish sports videos of the year.
Yeah, it's just magical. It's magical. I hope that's the reactionary gift to any sort of good moment in anybody's lives now. It's like
we should clip the audio of him laughing as well anytime anybody says something.
It's an impressive laugh. It really is. It's so good. And again, John Kiely is also just a phenomenal part of that video. The fact that he hasn't changed one little bit in 23 years, it's amazing.
We were asking for contenders for potential pitch invasions now that Limerick had, like, in fairness, they didn't have a full proper pitch invasion, but Valerie Lynch's pitch invasion as a solo effort is actually as good as anything that might otherwise have happened. Any takers for Cavan, asks Andy Dunleavy, which is a good shout, but they're not contenders, you know?
Yeah, like I think Valerie Lynch's pitch invasion is the pitch invasion version of the Maradona different class goal. Just a pure solo effort, brilliant work, didn't need any teammates, and stands out as the star of the show afterwards.
And a little bit of Maradona's hand of God thrown in as well. I was like, not quite, I'm actually not going to tell you how that happened.
Yeah.
But, you know, there was a little bit of subterfuge involved.
I wonder, is the best chance of a pitch invasion a club game when they just don't expect it?
Like a Club All-Ireland final?
Because all you got to do is breach one area of the stand, and if everybody that concentrates on one Stewart, like you still have the concentration on that Stewart, but they won't have enough volume of Stewarts to actually stop the flow of people. So
you are literally going to be banned from Croke Park for inciting people to riot. Declan Hughes says the Dublin hurlers, guys, 1938.
Oh, in terms of a drought.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good shout as well. They probably need to get back to an All-Ireland semi-final again and again for us to kind of put them into that bracket when they're All-Ireland contenders, and they very well could be over the next couple of years.
A reminder, OTB AM is live with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. And I just did want to point out that we've had a few issues with our Periscope feed over the last couple of days, but we think we've got to the bottom of it. So if you're normally somebody who watches this on Periscope or i.e. Twitter in the mornings, then hopefully we'll be back up and properly running for you from tomorrow's show on. As ever though, I would remind you that generally the best thing to do is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, offtheball.com/YouTube, because over there we have the extended version of a lot of stuff that we put out in short form version, either here or on the rest of our social channels across the day. But that's where all the good stuff rolls in and is effectively a 24-hour sports TV
or indeed youtube.com/offtheball.
What did I do?
That works as well. I don't think offtheball.com/YouTube works at all.
That?
So yeah, you did.
Man, this coffee's gone to my head.
Yeah, it really has. Do you want to get into the semi-finals of the World Cup of Irish Sporting Endorsements?
Yes.
So it's been a big week here on Off the Ball. It's probably been the most important thing we've
Don't
ever
let me down now.
As journalists, this is the reason why we get into this game. So quarterfinals yesterday, there were some heavyweight clashes, and let's get straight into this. The first one was Padraig Harrington and his golf swing shirt up against Niall Quinn and his Lucozade Sport. The golf swing shirt has destroyed Quinn's Lucozade Sport on a 67% to 33% result.
I'm worried about this. The swing shirt is so ridiculous that it has the chance that it could actually go all the way.
Well, let's have a look at it. Let's remind people who haven't seen the golf swing shirt what exactly it is.
Padraig, you've been playing great golf recently. What's your secret?
I've been practicing with the golf swing shirt. I believe it's the best swing trainer ever invented.
Did you say golf swing shirt?
Yes, the golf swing shirt. It's for men, women and children of all ages and sizes. The golf swing shirt helps you become a great ball striker by helping you learn a reliable and repeatable golf swing. Play great golf now with the golf swing shirt.
Visit golfswingshirt.com to order yours today.
What was the hat he was wearing?
I didn't quite catch it.
It was gofused.com, and that account suspended when you go to check what it is.
It seems every morning we discover something new about the Padraig Harrington golf swing shirt ad. Like yesterday morning, I kind of realised that wasn't actually the Wanamaker trophy there. It was just some knockoff or something. So it's fascinating. You get more and more from it every time you watch it, and that's probably why it won so healthily. So who will the golf swing shirt be up against in the semi-finals of the Irish World Cup of Sporting Endorsements? Well, we had Dennis Hickey, of course, and Edwavin Pybad up against Jack Charlton and his shredded wheat ad. Let's bring you the result of that. Another comprehensive win, 63% for Hickey's Wavin, up against 37% for Big Jack, shredded wheat.
Hickey's Wavin. Jeez. This is all a bit filthy, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. And
that little kid laughing.
That was just actually a cough. Let's have a look at Dennis Hickey and his Wavin Pipe ad.
What's with the Shamrock Rovers jerseys? I suppose you can't really have an actual rugby team's jersey, can you?
Well, it's Team Wavin, isn't it?
Yeah. Where do you think it's filmed?
It's hard to know, isn't it? It's, I don't know, Energia Park, like Donnybrook Stadium before it was Energia Park, I don't know. Probably.
If there are any extras, we want details, stories. We want to know like how temperamental the shoot was, what the rider was. Was there an absolutely giant truck that Hickey insisted on having, you know, like a cordoned off area just for him?
Yeah, I'm sure he did. Was there a director's chair that Hickey sat in? Did Hickey direct it as well as acting it? It certainly seems, I'm not going to say self-indulgent, certainly kind of the best moment of his artistic career is what I would call it. It's a masterpiece. So he's up against Padraig Harrington in the semi-finals.
That's heavyweight. Like they're I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in that one. I cannot tell.
The other one is a heavyweight as well. So let's bring you the other side of the draw. It was Jason McAteer, Carlsberg, up against Liam Brady and Kevin Moore. And you might say that the joint weight Brady and Moore might beat him, but not a hope.
That's the right
82% for Jason McAteer. I make Jason McAteer the favourite right now to win the World Cup of Irish Sporting Endorsements. For people who somehow aren't familiar with that, let's just remind you what it is.
I can't believe he did it. McAteer with a cross. And there's the goal.
That's also for
the last 16.
First goal of our World Cup qualifying campaign.
Yes! It's goodbye Spain! Hello Argentina! Robbie Keane has put Ireland into the semi-final against England.
Big Steiner still going.
Hart to send England home.
They show that penalty. Yeah, it looks suspiciously like Lansdowne Road, doesn't it?
They should have showed Kevin Kilban's shin. Well, it was before the World Cup.
The Republic of Ireland have won the World Cup. They said it was impossible, but nobody told Jason McAteer.
Carlsberg don't do dreams.
I think,
but if we did, they would probably be the best dreams in the world.
Why isn't Jason McAteer waking up to his alarm there? He looks like he's about to settle in and miss whatever appointment he's got.
Well, that's exactly why it's perfectly cast. McAteer's like, nah, that alarm. It's grand.
Don't need to go to training. I've run the World Cup. I don't need to train anymore.
It's true, and also I've worn those white suits. That looked like Tom Murphy, the actor from Adam and Paul, the late great Tom Murphy, celebrating the goal in the World Cup, who of course is in Adam and Paul, which is made 3 years later or 2 years later.
Same director.
Yeah, same director. So,
yeah, that's a good shout. Actually, probably is. So Carlsberg coasting through. Its fellow semi-finalist was involved in the tightest quarter-final we had. It was Keprevin up against Dunphy's Cheese. Who won? Well, it was Keprevin.
No!
Eamon Dunphy's Cheese with a disappointing end there. Keprevin winning. This is John Fenton.
Is Keprevin kind of has it solidified its base as the only GAA ad through to the last one left?
Certainly has. You've got golf, rugby, soccer, and GAA. It's a nice spread in the semi-finals. So let's have a look at that Keprevin ad.
Powerful.
I mean, it is possibly the greatest GAA goal of all time.
Reliable.
Yeah. Well, Paul Finn might have something to say about that.
Economical.
I know.
Keprevin.
Keprevin
is the mighty one you can really rely on. Just one treatment of Keprevin smashes
the madness, John
tightly.
Fenton's.
Through 4 weeks, through 6 weeks, throughout the 8-week dry period, right up to carving. Nothing else gives all-round, longer-lasting protection.
So good they showed it twice.
Keprevin, the long-lasting dry cow protection.
A bit of a soft spot for that too. Pittman Moore, sponsors of the Kildare team around the Micko era.
It's going to take one hell of a campaign from the GAA community on Twitter for it to take down Jason McAteer and Carlsberg. Roaring favourite in that semi-final. I would say a healthy favourite for the overall title.
It helps that McAteer is is retweeting any opportunity he gets. He's canvassing support at this point. I mean, rightly so. It's like a high water mark of his career. I mean, go for it, Jason.
If I was involved in this, I would actually be spending money on a campaign team right now. I'd be flyering at doors, urging people to sign up to Twitter, sign up as a bot on Twitter and vote for me. So yeah, it could be the greatest achievement of Jason McAteer's life if he goes all the way here. We will bring you the finalists and indeed the final, I think, tomorrow. When we figure that out, we'll let you know.
No, Monday. I'm not.
Oh, sorry, the final is Monday.
The final is Monday. Yeah, screw that. I'm not missing that.
Right, so we'll bring you the final list.
Can't sit through this whole thing all week and not be there for the final.
And then, I'm sure you've really enjoyed it. You can vote all weekend for the finalists, but today you've only got about 20 hours or so, 22 hours to vote for the winner. So we'll get those up on our Twitter account at Off The Ball very, very shortly.
There's a couple of things we need to tell you about before we get to Garry Ringrose. Dublin obviously looking for 4 in a row. Is it possible that Tyrone might dethrone them? We've put together an amazing crew for our final GAA Roadshow of the year. Ahead of the All-Ireland Football Final, we're headed to Croke Park with a cast of football legends. And we want you to join us. Kieran McGeeney, Jim McGuinness, James Horan, Cora Staunton, Peter Canavan, Aidan O'Shea and Keith Barr are going to join Joe at GAA HQ as we preview the big game. Full details and tickets available at offtheball.com/events. And this is nearly a sellout, folks. So if you want to head along, it's the Thursday before the All-Ireland Football Final, Croke Park, the 30th of August. It's going to be a live show that evening, and what a lineup. Jim McGuinness, the last man to mastermind a victory against the Dubs in Croker. Peter Canavan, obviously representing Tyrone. Geezer is just a superstar, and then everybody else will be giving us their details of how they think the game's going to go.
We just have to keep Dave McIntyre away from that, because he always just is ogling over Kieran McGeeney's biceps whenever we do these events. That's a template for Dave McIntyre to achieve.
We should just follow McIntyre around accidentally while he's not paying attention, put a GoPro on his head so we can just see him kind of staring. His POV.
Before we wrap up, before we go to Garry Ringrose, let's just show you this. This is Vincent Kompany and his first 11 he ever played for with Manchester City. So Joe Hart in goals.
Wow.
Richards, Ben Haim at centre half, the full backs of Chorluka and Ball. Kompany as holding midfielder, and a great trio in midfield. He was alongside Stephen Ireland and Michael Johnson. And then you had Elano on the right wing, Petrov on the left wing, and Daniel Sturridge up top. What a team. What a cast of characters that it's just kind of reminiscent of what Everton currently are, or what we might remember Everton to be in a few years' time.
Well, so on the face of it, it was actually a team that had the potential to go on to be really, really brilliant. Hart was supposed to be the goalkeeper for years. Micah Richards was supposed to be England's next great centre-back, a Sol Campbell-esque type player. You know, Richards and Kompany as a duo there. Who knew what Michael Ball was going to become? Johnson was supposed to be a superstar in waiting, but Stephen Ireland was going to be a dominant midfielder, a Xavi-style player at that point. And
so
then obviously
Johnson, in a very different manner, more box to box than Ireland was ever supposed to be, was also not only kind of a potential superstar at that point, it was almost signed, sealed and delivered. It was right, we've got a superstar on our hands right now, and he's going to get better and better and better. And it obviously just didn't happen for a multitude of reasons. There's a lot of what could have been about that team, isn't there?
Yeah, totally. I mean, ultimately what could have been was that they were good enough to attract the attention of a billionaire
who then signed Robinho
State, who immediately said, I'm delighted to have signed for Manchester United.
Oh yeah.
Declan Hughes has been in touch to say that's the voiceover artist who does Mr. Brennan on the Keppervin ad, lads. Well, that is a nice little tidbit to get all the white bread lovers on the Keppervin train.
That's a big demographic right there. Once you've got the white bread lovers, you're going to win most things.
We all know white bread voters. They get out early and they vote often.
They certainly do. Yeah, first at the polling station. Their polling card already sorted.
All right, Leinster and Irish rugby star Garry Ringrose popped into studio earlier this week for a chat ahead of the new season. Garry also works as an ambassador for Audi, so we kicked off the chat there. All right, I'm delighted to say we got Garry Ringrose with us. Garry, how you doing?
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me in.
You're here as an Audi ambassador. We were wondering, which Audi do you drive?
I currently drive in an A3 saloon. So actually, no, they did the A3 in the saloon before joining Audi, so it's a lovely car.
Is that not like a middle-aged businessman's car, or am I mistaking it for?
No, I'm pretty sure it's kind of the A3 range will be marketed towards the kind of younger folk.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware, anyway.
It's the kind of smaller, cool one.
I think so, yeah. I hope so.
Yeah.
It's not quite the Q7. I think Rob's in the Q7, which is tailored to the
old man farmer,
more senior individual. Yeah.
He's a gentleman farmer.
Yeah, he is.
A couple of things I want to talk to you about. Felipe's back at Leinster. You're just of an age where you were kind of very impressionable at coming through in your rugby following to remember Felipe and his pomp.
Yeah, certainly the tail end of his time at Leinster. I mean, he was a pretty influential character. Now, I wouldn't have been over-analysing his game other than just being a Leinster supporter in the stand now, but it's someone who played kind of so passionately, and certainly with Argentina, the experience he has as an international player, the fact that we have him in helping us out coaching is phenomenal.
He's got a reputation as being a fairly fiery character, certainly on the field. What's he actually like on day to day? Have you had that much dealings with him yet? Is it too early in the season? Or?
Yeah, well, I suppose it is still early days, but he's incredibly measured and intelligent. You can see he's, a true out half, a proper rugby intellect, and the messages he's kind of given us is a breath of fresh air, and certainly a different perspective to what we would have had last year. So it's kind of great having his set of eyes even adding to the group.
One of the things I definitely remember is obviously the back line that he played in was a team festooned with legends, but there was always an energy in the crowd when Felipe stepped. There was too whenever Brian O'Driscoll stepped, but when Felipe did it too, there was this kind of sense of nobody actually knows what's going to happen next year. It's not the same thing that you would have got from a fairly standard number 10, which would have been maybe more traditional at Leinster before that. So do you remember that, that level of excitement, or are you just a little bit too young?
Probably not as specific as that. From what he's saying now, he's be quite calculated and strategic, and so I don't know, thinking back, whether the stuff he did, what might have looked like off the cuff that he had pre-planned and worked out, and kind of would do out of instinct, that kind of led him to be as successful as he was.
Because the backline that you guys have at the moment is obviously unbelievably good and very talented and very competitive as well. So where do you find out? How do you get better as a group? What's that process like?
Well, I think it was interesting off the back of last year, the way, looking at any successful group, the kind of change before change is needed was a quote I heard before, and we got to evolve because everyone else is going to get better. So we have to similarly try and improve, as opposed to sit back and think we've in any way completed it or reached the perfect picture, because we know even some of the games last year that's not the case. Certainly having Felipe in with a new set of eyes helps, because he'd have certain messages, certain things he'd believe on how to play in backline moves and how to even in phase attack, which has helped, as well as kind of each other. Off the back of the tour, you're kind of playing and training with other guys and learning off them, and then try and bring that back and get the edge individually and then also collectively.
It seems like Felipe is almost perfect. He's a perfect representation of what this Leinster team is about, because it's interesting that you mentioned that he's more structured than we may think, than the people who just watched him play may think, because that seems representative of this Leinster team, that you are a very structured team. You're very good when it comes to set pieces, but also when it comes to that spark, that moment of brilliance, that creativity when it's required, that's also there.
Yeah, well, what I really like about Felipe is he's quite simple in his messages and is doing the simple things really well. And then, which kind of, if you can lay that foundation of doing the simple things well, it kind of gives the players that the chance to do their individual impacts or individual moments off the back of it, which is something I'm certainly looking forward to when the games start. That certainly will hopefully be evident off the back of what he's brought in.
When you say that if you're not changing, if you're not evolving, then you're moving backwards, what do you think are the things that you need to hold on to? What was the thing that you did the best last year as a collective?
What we did best, I think our adaptability compared to the year before. It was the semi-final against Scarlets and then the semi-final against Claremont. Both of them were games we probably didn't adapt to throughout the game as quick as we should have. So that was kind of one learning that we brought into the following year, that we are aware that teams will come up against us and try to negate what would be our strengths and how to go about that. And it's something that we constantly always have to improve, because it's only going to continue and get even tougher. So it'll be about managing the game well and how to come up with different ways to beat teams, because rarely is it kind of one way of playing that kind of wins a game. I suppose last year, thinking to the semi-final of the Heineken Cup, which was a pretty high scoring game compared to the final. So there was that element of adaptability. It's not a perfect picture, but certainly kind of learnings like that, if we can continue to bring into next year, this year, hopefully help us.
I think that kind of actually rubber stamped the season last year, the final, and the kind of conditions it was played in and the way it was played in. It was like, right, Leinster can actually do this. When they're not hammering a team, they can actually grind out the results, especially in the heat of a battle in the final of a European tournament.
It is one big positive we can take out of it, but kind of at the same time, it was until the 72nd minute we actually took the lead. So, if that game had gone slightly differently, if if Teddy Thomas had booted the ball before he got tackled into touch, they could have been very different, and then I could be talking in a completely different light on the final. So there's an appreciation for that as well. It's not like we're by no means close to where we want to be, and there's still so much stuff we can improve on, if that makes sense.
Where do you think the game is at the moment? We kind of see there tends to be trends that evolve after World Cups, where everybody kind of comes and sees what the best stuff that's happening, and then everybody tries and steals a little bit of it. And it certainly seemed that the old notion of like locking teams down and being very defensive and making sure that was brilliant worked for a while, but then obviously the All Blacks come along and realise that they're attacking from everywhere, and they're attacking at pace and from different angles, and the running is amazing, and everybody, and the skill level is so high, so that we all have to copy that and adopt that. At the moment, as somebody who is an offensive player and kind of focusing on that, what's the evolution in the game? Where's that going? Where do you see that happening?
It's a difficult question. I think some of the coaches might give a better answer than I will. I don't know. The way I look at it is it's a balance between the two. Attack's getting better, so which means we got to improve defensively, and similarly teams' defences are getting better, so we got to come up with new inventive ways to break them down and attack. So I'd kind of be, one element of the game isn't more important than the other, in my opinion. The amount of scores you see nowadays that are scored off the back of good defence.
So it's a counter-attacking and kind of going straight away when you get the turnover and having that pace at that point. Yeah, well, I think it was Scarlets were probably one of the best counter-attacking teams we came against, and every team's different, but they were certainly incredibly strong. I mean, if you kick to them loosely, they'd pull you apart with how they attacked. So even as personally got a couple of learnings from them and watching them play with regards to their counter-attack, so that's somewhere we can improve. Is that a change in mindset, do you think? Like, as a 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old coming through, at that stage in Irish rugby, would you have been trained, you get the ball, we'll kick the touch, or we'll recycle and we'll be slow and methodical in our build-up, as opposed to the comfortable and chaos stuff that's coming from Stuart Lancaster, and everybody's kind of referenced that over the last 18 months, that there just was this change in mindset, was like, actually, we've got the ball, they're not fully set, why aren't we going now? Yeah, well, I think that'd be consistent with a lot of teams now, how quick they're trying to play, because, ultimately you want to, when you have the ball, put the opposition under as much pressure as possible. So playing fast and quick and being comfortable doing so is such an important part of the game. Having said that, I don't think I have the answer to your question fully. I'm sure you get a better answer, but I didn't know how you explain this. There still would be the balance between, say, even in the big games last year, we might have been playing quick and trying to play on top of teams, but then knowing when, again, which probably we didn't get the year before, knowing when to, say, put kicks in through to put pressure on opposition. So it's not necessarily the most attractive offloading game, but you're putting in pressure kicks to ultimately give you the opportunity to attack off the back of it, if that makes sense. So I still think it's a balance between putting teams under pressure and kicking quite a lot, because I know, not that we'd be basing it ever off the All Blacks, but they'd be everyone would talk about how good they are ball in hand and the skills they have, but they do kick quite a lot, and I think they're a team that actually do get the balance of, well, on their best days, the balance of kicking and putting teams under pressure, as well as then breaking them down through their running game. So does that become instinctive in a team over a period of time? I think it's a constant learning. To the point where you get questioned afterwards, why did you kick? Why didn't you run? Or why did you run? Why didn't you kick? I think of every phase you ask that question. When you're reviewing a game individually, you kind of think back to why you made any decision you did, and whether it was the right or wrong one, or what alternatives you had, and then certainly collectively what we could have done in different scenarios with Leinster and Ireland, and how we could have been more effective, whether what we did was the right thing, or just, again, what other alternatives there are. So I think it's a balance of getting everything right, as opposed to just focusing on one element and being really good at playing fast and offloading, because that can get you in trouble sometimes as well. At some point, does all that questioning, is it just a normal part of your life now, or is there any risk that sometimes it spills over a bit into second guessing in the moment? No, not quite. I think certainly from my own, or
personally, and as well as the whole team, you learn something new from every game. And in terms of that changing and evolution, you had to evolve. You have to ask questions and ultimately try and improve off the back of that. If you kind of don't do that, then you kind of can get static. And
yeah, although your instinct is also something that has served you really well. Like, you know, it looks like you have a very natural rugby brain that goes, that ball is free, I should pick it up. You know, like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to go and slide in that and secure the ruck. Like, you know what I'm asking here is that, like, there's a balance between understanding exactly what all the options are and then going, feck it, I'm going with the option that I think is best.
I think there's that trial and error during the game. You learn off the back of it. I know there's an element of instinct, but ultimately you sort of pick up that instinct from how you train, what you do in training, what works, what doesn't.
I've tried this before.
What you do in games, what works, what doesn't. And that's why, I mean, making mistakes is not that it's a good thing, but if you can make a mistake and get away with it and learn from it, then it's a positive in that regard. And that goes for training and matches once it's not too costly in a match.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can train that instinct to a certain extent as well, especially, like, they often talk about it with all sports when it comes to kids. It's like, oh, you see something on TV and then suddenly you want to go out the backyard and try exactly what whoever it was on TV. So for you, maybe it was Brian O'Driscoll or whoever it was. I do wonder, do you still experience that? Like, are you going to turn on the Rugby Championship at the weekend and see one of the Kiwis do something insane and think, actually, that's a good idea, I want to try something like that, that your rugby instinct is growing all the time almost?
Yeah, definitely. I think something Stuart would encourage all of us to watch as much rugby as possible, because you do pick up learnings and different ways of attacking, different ways of defending. You kind of get an appreciation for what's effective and what isn't. So certainly something I'm working on, and he was trying to get me and a lot of guys that don't just watch a game for the enjoyment of it and sort of sit back and relax, and more just after the game actually have a point of view on it.
That's a bit like, no, I'm going home, I'm putting my feet up, I'm watching this and I'm not doing any work.
Well, no, it would just, it's not too intense. You don't need the notepad or anything, but just to have a point of view.
He's WhatsApping you clips, isn't he? Going, look at this, you've got to do some training this week.
No, it's not as bad as I'm making it sound, but it would be to just have a point of view after every game of rugby, which means you're just thinking that bit.
Yeah, and what's their defensive structure? How's that working?
Yeah, and just kind of what
it, or how would you break it?
Yeah, stuff like that. So it's not very taxing at all, and it's a game we'll probably be watching anyway. So.
Yeah. Like, do you enjoy watching rugby? Like, will you watch the rugby at the weekend? Will you get up early on Saturday morning?
Yeah, probably will. They're good games to watch. Be interesting to see how Australia go off the back of the tour there, and yeah, obviously the Kiwis see where they're at the moment, as well as the other two. So I'll probably get up and watch it. I'm sure most people will, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think you kind of outlined it there. You kind of think to yourself, focusing on this thing 24/7 and then doing more of it on your day off or whatever it may be taxing. But I guess the Rugby Championship is a pretty special. It's not like you're being asked to watch
most people will be watching anyway. I'll watch it probably with my old man or my brother or something.
You're not watching Zebra Treviso though, are you?
Sorry?
You're not watching Zebra Treviso.
If it's on, yeah.
Well, I wanted to just briefly ask you about defending the 13 channel and how that has changed in recent seasons. Has it changed? Is there different responsibilities on you now?
I don't know whether it's changed or not, because I can't speak too much about what it was like before I was playing.
You're around the first team fringes now for 3-4 seasons, is that about right? Or 18-19?
I certainly think it's an important position defensively, because you can kind of pull width, and there's an element of controlling the people inside you. You do have license to kind of make decisions
to shoot up, or
either shoot or not, put pressure, realise you're kind of on the back foot and sit off. So there was a lot of decisions that would kind of go through the 12, 13 winger. Probably traditionally the winger wouldn't have been, I don't know, back in the day needed to be the best defender, but now the wingers, I mean, some of the wingers I play with are the best defenders on the pitch. Someone like Keith Earls and the knowledge, experience he has, he's someone I'd still kind of learn off and how he goes about, how he defends. So
just his positioning, or what he's saying to you, or a
bit of everything really. It helps the experience he has, and he's proven year on year how good he is, and he's just someone you can learn off. I think most players, regardless of what position they're playing, learn a thing or two off him and how he defends.
In the middle of a game or after a game? Like, are you talking to him after the game, or kind of is it like, oh, that's interesting, he's there? Why is he telling me to do this?
Probably during you're in the heat of battle, you don't overthink it too much.
Yeah.
But after a game, certainly watching him, you see the work he does off the ball. Even someone like Issa, who was on the wing, he'd be one of the best defenders in the Leinster team when he was playing and he was out in the wing. So there's definitely the the 13 and the wingers, they, not that the whole defence would revolve around them, but they certainly have the opportunity to impact when they can.
Because we'd obviously talk a bit with Brian O'Driscoll about the role of the 13 as a defender, and he would definitely say that it's one of the most important on the field in terms of setting the position and kind of setting the edge and deciding exactly how that's all going to work.
Yeah.
Did you get loaded with that responsibility when you set straight into the team as a 19-year-old, or is that something that as you get older and more senior in the team, they're like, okay, you're going to have to be far more vocal? And
yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't, not that it's a massive responsibility. I think it's the core of any team. If there's the understanding there, it's not the 13 doesn't need to be necessarily an out-and-out leader, but if there's an understanding amongst the team, you can defend well. The 13 understands defensively his role, and the people around him, he should be good to go from there. So it's not like if the 13 defends poorly that the whole team's going to defend poorly. I wouldn't put it like that, but yeah, there's the opportunity. Certainly I've seen the guys I've played with, like the likes of Robbie, Bundy, JP, Jared Payne, you know what I mean, the way they defend at 13 and what I've learnt off them, that certainly someone like Jared Payne, when you are a leader in 13, it certainly helps the team. So it's probably something that I need to work on and continue to improve as a player.
Yeah, I mean, people probably forget, because you've been around for so long and the team has been so successful while you've been there, that you're still pretty young in general rugby terms. But at the same time, people keep retiring and leaving, so you know your kind of status within the Leinster squad in particular starts to get, I'm actually more senior now at this point.
Yeah, well, even seeing some of the younger guys now, I always thought I was the young guy, but even during training there's loads of lads that are putting their hands up and impressing. So I think at 23, even play along with Jordan Larmour and stuff, no longer the young guy, which has moved on pretty quickly.
These next couple of years, though, there will be more onus on you to be someone who's speaking in meetings and kind of doing that kind of stuff. Is that something you're interested in, or the correct answer is yes, of course I'm interested in it, but like...
Yeah, no, I think it's just a natural evolution really, and I think even talking to some of the more senior guys, or Issa before he left, or even Johnny and stuff, it kind of just comes with time and you learn over time and naturally kind of grow into that role, as opposed to trying to be ahead of your time at any stage, that sort of way. Personally, would just try and make sure you get your own job, own role right, and kind of once you have that locked down, then there's the opportunities present itself to try and maybe talk when you can or when it's needed.
How do you spend the whole year not thinking about the World Cup, or putting it at bay and kind of at least pretending that you're not thinking about it?
I don't think it'll be too difficult. Although it's next year, it kind of feels like it's a season
after that,
half and a half away, that sort of way. So not really overthinking it too much. I think that'd be the downfall of anyone, to get too distracted about the World Cup.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of rugby.
There's just so much rugby to play, and especially when the pre-season games for Leinster have already started, and when the season starts in 2 weeks' time, I won't be thinking much about the World Cup. It'll be kind of just focusing on short-term goals and how can improve for there in the moment, week on week.
Well, listen, best of luck with the season coming. Thanks a million.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.